The Los Angeles Chargers, one of the most anticipated teams of the 2022 NFL season, upcoming season. They've done a lot to really improve on this team on both offense and defense. They fixed a lot of problems that they've been having some problems with over the last couple of years. They have a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. They've got a lot of offensive players like Austin Eckler and all the receivers and Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and so on and so forth. I think this is a really, really good Chargers team this year. But how many of those games are they going to be able to translate to the team wins? Well, I think that's just something that we'll have to figure out ourselves. I'm your boy James, and we'll get started with figuring out the Chargers schedule. Let's take a look. Okay, so the Chargers start out their season in Week 1 with playing the Las Vegas Raiders at home against in Los Angeles. I did talk about it a little bit in my Raiders prediction video. I do think the Chargers are going to split with the Raiders this year once again. Um, I don't know if it's going to be in Week 1 that they're going to win or if they're going to win later on in the season, but I do see the Chargers splitting with the Raiders. I do think it's a good possibility that they do win in the first week just because it's the home atmosphere. It's a brand new season. Both teams are vastly improved with all the offseason stuff that they've been able to do. The Raiders will be figuring out a little bit of their new head coach in Josh McDaniels. So I think it's a good start for the Chargers to get the Raiders this early in the season just to kind of figure out some things and schemes that they may be able to get away with when they do go to play them. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win in Week 1 against the Raiders. And then in Week 2, I talked about this a little bit too when I did my Kansas City Chiefs predictions video. I did pick the Chiefs to win this Thursday night football game matchup, and I still think that is going to be the case. I do think the Chargers are also going to split with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. The Kansas City Chiefs, while they haven't really gotten that much better, I don't believe. They did make some improvements on defense, but I still don't think that defense is anywhere near as being elite as it could be. But I do think they're going to win this Week 2 matchup here against the Chargers, and I do think later on in the season that the Chargers will beat the Chiefs. And I'm only saying this because it's on prime time. It's in Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes always plays very well in prime time, especially if he is playing at home. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win that matchup in Week 2. But then later on in the season, the Chargers will beat the Chiefs, I believe, but just not this early in the season. Then in Week 3, you face the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, the Chargers should win that game pretty handily. I don't have any faith in the Jaguars. I don't think they're a very good team this year. Yeah, I'm just going to keep that short and sweet. And then you go to the Texans, a rematch of last year where the Texans actually really upset the Chargers by winning that game down in Houston. And honestly, I don't see the Texans being any good either. I think this is a really I don't think the Chargers are going to lose to the same bad team 2 years in a row. So I think the Chargers are going to avenge their loss from last season, and they will be able to beat the Texans in Week 4. Then Week 5, you have to go to the Cleveland Browns to play the Cleveland Browns. Now for this particular game, I could see this game going either way. This was pretty much a shootout last year where you had in Los Angeles where Baker Mayfield had a great game in his passing game and the run game versus Justin Herbert and his passing game. We're not really sure exactly as far as Deshaun Watson because now Deshaun Watson is starting for the Browns. We don't know if he's going to be able to come out of suspension in time for this game or if he's going to be he'll be able to play. I don't know. But I think regardless of who's at quarterback here, I think the Chargers are still the better team on paper. Um, I trust Justin Herbert right now, and I think whoever the quarterback is going to be, whether it's going to be Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, or if it's going to be Deshaun Watson, I don't know. But I don't see any of those quarterbacks being able to do anything with the Chargers just because I think the Chargers are just that good. They're tough. They're going to be a tough team to beat on defense. They're going to be a tough team to slow down. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win that matchup in week 5 against the Browns. Then in week 6, the Denver Broncos travel all the way to Los Angeles for a Monday Night Football game. I'm taking the Chargers to split with the Broncos as well. I think they're going to win that matchup in Los Angeles. Um, I do think the Chargers are honestly, I think really on paper as of right now, I think the Chargers might be a slightly better team on offense than the Broncos, but both defenses I believe are going to be very similar to one another. Um, but I think the Chargers do win this first matchup here with the Denver Broncos because this is going to be earlier in the season where Denver is still going to try to figure out their quarterback with Russell Wilson. He's still going to try to play around with the receivers that he has and being able to figure out what's best for him, which isn't. So I think the Chargers win that game in week 6 on Monday night. Then you go to week 7 and you have the Seattle Seahawks traveling over to Los Angeles. I think this should be an easy win for the Chargers. Honestly, I don't really have any faith in the Seattle Seahawks this year at all, personally. And I think it's not so much on the offensive side, but it's mostly with Drew Lock as being their new starting quarterback. And also that defense is just not very good either. And I think the Chargers and Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, all those guys, I think they're going to do enough. They should be able to really have a field day with the Seattle Seahawks in that aspect. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. So then you're going into the bye week in week 8. So you have a 6-1 record. That's a really good record for an AFC West team. That's honestly one of the best. That's actually probably the best record I've had in this division so far. And then you come off the bye week and you have week 9 against the Atlanta Falcons at Atlanta. And then Chargers should win that game. The Falcons are really not a very good team this year. I think they're going to be the worst, if not one of the worst teams, if not the worst in the NFL this year. But yeah, I think the Chargers should win that game. Then week 10, you have the Chargers traveling to San Francisco to play the 49ers. This will be a very good game on both sides. I think this is where the run defense is definitely going to be tested on the Chargers. That was one of their biggest weaknesses, honestly, in the Chargers defense last year. And I think with Deebo Samuel and company, and if Trey Lance is starting in this game, they might be able to get some yardage against this Chargers defense. So honestly, I think this is a very close game. I think this is going to be a pretty good game between the two teams. And I do think Kyle Shanahan will find ways to beat the Chargers. I think this might be an upset game. And I think it's a Sunday night, and it is a Sunday night game. I'm going to pick the 49ers in an upset over the Chargers. I think the 49ers do have some potential to be really good, but there are going to be some teams that are going to probably match up with them a little bit better. But I think the 49ers, out of all the teams that they're playing against the AFC West this year, I think one of their biggest upsets that I do believe they're going to pull off this year is going to be against the Chargers. So I'm going to take the 49ers to beat the Chargers, and that's really it. I think so. And then you go week 11 and you have the Chargers being at home against the Chiefs. Again, like I said in my Chiefs prediction, they are going to split against each other this year. I do believe the Chargers are going to beat Kansas City at home this time. I think they'll split against the division with them. And I think it will be both times, I believe, both are going to be offensive shootouts. I think both offenses are excellent. It's going to be a shootout. So I'm going to take the Chargers to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Then you go into week 12. The Chargers are going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. This is going to be a really good game for them. And I think DeAndre Hopkins will probably be out of suspension at this point in time. I'm not really sure. Assuming if Kyler Murray is going to be playing, which I think he will end up playing. This is actually a really good test for the Chargers defense because the Cardinals are sneaky. They can be a very good team. I believe they can be a good team. But this is around the time when the Cardinals do start to fall apart a little bit. So I think with Cliff Kingsbury and, this team, and then you have Kyler Murray, and then you have DeAndre Hopkins and Marquise Brown and all those other guys as well, it's going to be very tough to for the Cardinals to really pick up the pace in this point in the season, just because of their history behind struggling towards the end of the season, like they have the last couple of years, and that's why they haven't really gone anywhere. I think I could really see both teams battling it out, and I think either one of these teams can win this game. But I think with the Chargers, I think they're a better coached team. I think they're going to be more consistent on offense. I think they're going to put up a lot more points. I think that defense of the Chargers is actually a little more trustworthy than the Arizona Cardinals. So I think the Chargers are going to win and beat the Arizona Cardinals in week 12. And then you have the Chargers going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. As I said earlier, I do see the Chargers splitting against the Raiders this year, and I'm going to pick the Raiders to beat the Chargers in Week 13 in Las Vegas. I think the Las Vegas atmosphere is going to be getting tougher this year, considering of how much offseason trades and draft picks and everything that the Raiders have been doing this year. And with a new head coach in Josh McDaniels, I think this is going to be a good game for the Raiders. I think they should be able to split against the Chargers. Either way, I think it's going to be a really good offensive shootout game like it was with the Chiefs. So they'll be good in that. And then week 14, you have the Miami Dolphins and the Chargers. I could see this game being very close, but really on paper, realistically, I think the Chargers offense overpowers the Miami defense. I think what really is going to get the Miami defense really hot the most is in their secondary with Xavier Howard. But honestly, I don't think that's really going to be enough to really stop Justin Herbert and company. I think the Chargers do beat the Miami Dolphins at home in that game. Then week 15, you have the Tennessee Titans going to Los Angeles. I think this game could really go either way. I talked about it in my Titans prediction video. I can see the Titans either winning this game or I can see the Chargers. I did pick the Chargers to win this game, and reasons behind it is because I think the offense and passing game in Justin Herbert is a lot better, and I think that's going to be very hard for the Tennessee Seven and their secondary to be able to stop all these great receivers and the running game that they have. They have a strong running game too. And I think just Justin Herbert is just an absolute baller, and he's really going to be successful in this league this year. And I think one of the teams, and this is one of the tougher teams that he's facing towards the end of the stretch of the season. So I do think that he does have a good chance to beat the Titans at home. Then you have the week 16. You have the Chargers playing against the Colts. The Colts are a very good team this year. They're a dark horse team. They're going to have a really strong run game yet again. And I think with the upgrade with Matt Ryan over Carson Wentz definitely does help. I still don't think it's going to really be enough for the for the Colts, to be able to keep up with the Chargers. I think the Colts defense is definitely going to slow down Justin Herbert and company. But I think at the end of the day, I think really if it's going to be an offensive shootout, I think Justin Herbert wins. It's not that I don't think Matt Ryan can win in shootouts like this because it's been shown before that Matt Ryan can. But I think Justin Herbert and this team is a younger team. They have some young players on this team. Justin Herbert is still pretty young. I think he's more agile than Matt Ryan. So I think the Chargers beat the Colts on Monday Night Football in Indianapolis. Then week 17, you have the Rams going to the Chargers. Well, that's really not. They share the same locker room pretty much, so this won't be really. They won't be going anywhere. But this is a Sunday Night Football game, and this is going to be a good game between the two teams. I think they both could be potential Super Bowl picks for this year, honestly, in my opinion. And that would be really cool to see two teams in Los Angeles be able to make the Super Bowl and play against each other. But I think the Rams are just so good right now with all the offense and the defensive side of the ball that they do have. It's very hard to beat this Rams team. This Rams team is very good. They're the best team in the NFL, I believe, right now, and definitely the best team in the NFC. So honestly, I think Matthew Stafford and them I think they're just going to have enough. I don't see very many teams being able to stop Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp this year. I really don't. So And if they do, great for them. But I don't see very many teams doing that. I only see a select few teams that might be able to do that. But it's going to be very hard to be able to slow that duo down. So I'm going with the Rams to beat the Chargers in the Chargers stadium part of the stadium. And then week 18, we talked about it. I think the Broncos do win this last game of the season in Mile High. And then that should really do it for the Chargers schedule. And so we're looking at the Chargers to be 12-5. And really, with this record, it's going to take them to be division. They're going to be division champs in their AFC West division. Honestly, I think this is very possible. I think really the AFC West is really up for grabs for anybody. I think any of these four teams, the Broncos, the Chiefs, or the Raiders, I think any of them could really compete with the Chargers too, because they're all just very, very good. They all can make the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I think the Chargers have made the most impressive moves in the offseason so far, besides Russell Wilson going to Denver. But I really think the Chargers are just one of the best teams in the AFC right now. I like what they're doing. I think Justin Herbert is an absolute baller. He's the second best quarterback in this division. And I think he's going to be successful. I really do. I think this is going to be a really good year for the Chargers. I believe in Brandon Staley and his coaching staff. I think this defense is revamped and a lot better than they were a year ago. And I think this offensive line is also going to be improved as well. So this is a good team that we're looking at for the Chargers. And I'm really excited to see what this Chargers team can really do outside of the regular season. I think they do have a shot to really take the AFC West. So that's my pick as of right now for the Chargers. This is the schedule, and yeah, I think the Chargers can do it. I think they're one of the best teams in the AFC, and they can compete with teams like the Buffalo Bills. They can definitely compete with the Bengals and all the other teams as well too that are going to be competing for a spot. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. Where you think the Chargers are going to be. Do you think they're going to be around here 12-5? Do you think they'll be better? Do you think they'll be worse? Just let me know in the comments down below. And that's going to wrap it up for all the AFC teams that I have done. All the AFC prediction videos. We've done the East, we've done the North, the West, and we did the South. So those are all the AFC teams that we have done. And moving on to the next video, we're going to do all the NFC teams. But for the next part, for the NFC, the first part of the NFC teams, we're going to be reviewing and going over the NFC East teams. So I hope you all stick around for that, and I hope to see you all soon.